Hey everyone, welcome to the program, WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier One. As always, I hope you all are having a good week as we continue the descent into the fall of Western civilization. And maybe at least we can enjoy the ride a little bit. Let's kind of jump right into the show today, because honestly, I don't have any other little observations or tidbits or anything like that going on. So we'll just get right into it. This week I have been busy with work and other things going on around the house and whatnot. And so that gave me some time to think about something that I've been seeing lately on Gab and some other platforms that I visit. There's a lot of talk about a parallel society or a parallel economy. And there's a lot of lamenting what we have lost in terms of the culture war that has been raging for many years, in the West. And we see countless stories and examples, and almost universally on our side of the spectrum, it's just accepted as being the collateral damage of this struggle. It's just accepted that we have very little control over what is fed to us and is defined as our culture. And this whole role, build this parallel platforms and parallel way of doing things is a response to that. Well, today we're going to question that and challenge the notion, because I believe we have a significant amount of control over that. And that not only do we have that control, the whole reason we are in this fight with big tech is because they are terrified of the control that we do have. This last week, I've been listening to a YouTube channel, or really, watching a YouTube channel in my spare time. I don't watch network television, and I tend to watch YouTube at night, stream, and just a whole host of things that I look at. But this channel is filled with so many wonderful artists and performances that it's quickly become one of my favorite things to watch. It's called Western AF, and it is a treasure trove of what you might call contemporary or modern but old time country western music. Music that's in that tradition of like Hank Sr., Patsy Cline, Flats and Scruggs. I mean, just all these old, 1950s era, this golden age of country western performances and performers. And this channel is showcasing the people who are carrying on that legacy. And it's absolutely an amazing array of talent and songwriting. And you should check it out as soon as you finish listening to this, because it's just fantastic. And even if you don't like that style of music, there is something at work here that you should be thinking about. So let me step back a little bit and give you something else to consider. First off, what is culture anyway? We often call ourselves traditional Americans because we embrace and promote and live this traditional American culture, how we define a traditional American culture, which is to say a descendant of European culture. But what exactly is culture? Well, it's a number of things. It's racial, it's language, it's celebrations, it's food, it's religion, but it's also art and music. And the big question, though, is who defines our culture? And this is the key point here. Why is it that we allow big media, the movie industry, the record industry, and just on and on and on? Why is it we allow them to define what our culture is? Just as we have ceded our government to elites, the wealthy, the corporate interest, all of these people, we've ceded our culture to these foreign agents and actors, people who are not American in any way, shape, or form. And they define and feed us what they want to in order to drag us further and further away from our historical base. They are defining what we call our culture in an effort to undermine and destroy our foundations, replace it with this fake and shallow replacement that is billed as the new global culture or what have you. But it's a watered down, superficial, and mix of things that have no connection to our history or our ancestors or our lands. We are broken for a reason, broken society, and just broke on so many different levels. And this is a huge part of it. Well, folks, we have allowed this to happen. We have allowed this to take place and be done to us. We can blame all kinds of people and agents and whoever. Bring out the list of people you want to blame, but we have to accept it. We accepted it. We swallowed every spoonful of it and kept going back for more. And yes, they covered it with sugar to make it go down easier, but we never pushed back on it. In no real significant way did we fight this. We just ate it up. Well, it's far past time that we said no more. They don't define what our culture is anymore. We know there's a problem, and just like the addict, we have to recognize that the problem is us. And only when we do can we reject that false replacement and go back to owning our own culture, our own cultural definitions, and our own norms. I think we've hit rock bottom now. They say that the addict can never recover until they've actually hit the bottom. Well, I think we've hit bottom. I think we have come to understand that we have to fix this, and we are ready to rebuild ourselves and make ourselves whole again. And really the only question is how we go about doing that. Because we define our own culture, it's up to us to embrace the things which we know go back to our roots and promote them as far and wide as we can. And not only do I think we can do this, I think we must use the very tools against them to accomplish it, the tools that they have built. We see so much being done to control what we see and what we consume on these big tech platforms, but largely it centers on these political topics and these hot button items. And for the most part, things like art and music are generally not outright banned. There's some exceptions, of course. When you see some things come up that become just this immediate sort of viral, response to something, those can get banned. But we have alternative places for those items that are, too hot to handle on the mainstream platforms. So let's focus on things like music and art and films and plays and those kind of things that reside on those mainstream platforms, but are still icons of traditional culture, or what can be made an icon of traditional culture. So what exactly am I getting at here? Well, let me give you an example. So I like bluegrass music. Every bluegrass video I see on YouTube, I will click on it and I will like it. I don't watch all of them. I have certain types of bluegrass music that appeal to me, certain sounds and whatnot. So I don't necessarily like every one of these musicians or every one of these songs or whatnot, but I still click on it and I like it because that's what makes YouTube work. Okay, that's the metric that drives their algorithms, because bluegrass music is not only something I like, it's a link to traditional Appalachian culture, which is a link to Scot-Irish and even German culture. And I want to promote that, and I want to raise its profile. I want to reward the people that are playing this music and making these videos because, by and large, they themselves are small, independent creators who are rolling their own. We talk about rolling our own. That's what they're doing, and they're using these established platforms, to get their message out. Because unlike, people who are really politically turned on, the vast majority of people don't see YouTube as being a barrier, or other mainstream platforms as being a barrier or a hurdle that they have to get over. Sometimes they'll run up against that, but most of the time they don't. To them, it is a platform, and they can put their music there and they can get their names out there. So that's fine. That's great. So not only am I promoting them to a wider audience by using this platform and using the system that they've built in place, I'm using the system that they have established to counter the message that the system is working so hard to put out. Fighting within the system, if you will. Now, nature very often provides the cure very close to the poison where it grows. So I think if we do this enough, And rather than being so averse to using these platforms, we use them to our advantage. We'll establish a growing base of people who will reject the garbage that is being fed to us as a replacement, for our significantly better material. Okay, we're building a superior product. There are people out there putting out superior product to what mainstream is giving us, and it's a matter of people like us taking the initiative to promote that and put that out there to counter that narrative that is being put out there for us. So, and we're seeing this, happening. Just with this latest round of woke Hollywood garbage that's being heavily promoted and forced as a replacement for superior original content. And I'm speaking of the new Lord of the Rings hack job that is on Amazon right now. By every account and honest viewer, it is a steaming cup of dumpster water topped off with a toilet paper straw. This is a god-awful mishmash of parts of Tolkien's work, combined with, the idle ramblings of these wokester scriptwriters who they just can't seem to find a crowbar large enough to lever their entire ideology into one story. And it's going down in flames, and it hasn't even hit the platform yet. Okay, it hasn't even hit wider public viewing until tomorrow, I believe. By the time the video is posted, this video is posted. It's been reviewed by people who have got early access, though, and the embargo has expired, so they can talk about it now. And the people who are paid to give glowing reviews, those are the only positive ones it's getting. Anyone who is independent of the pay-to-review system is crushing this thing and trashing it like a Panama City motel room on spring break, which is all fine and good. I approve of that. But, we can't win this thing by simply defending ourselves against what they throw at us. We can't really even win it by trying to work within their system like I just suggested. These are simpler tactics in a broader conflict, okay? Really, ultimately, yes, the path forward is to do what is being talked about in our circles, and that is to build and foster our own products that we promote and enjoy outside of their platforms. Alternative platforms where artists can be uploaded and shared is how followings are built. It's a modern version of, when I was a young guy and I was playing in a band and enjoying the local music scene in Atlanta, we had a hardcore punk music scene, and it got no promotion from any main avenues. Even the local college radio station would not play most of that stuff. And, the main way that you knew bands were playing is that they made their own posters and their own flyers, and they pasted them all up, over the little hip areas of town, Little 5 Points, those places. And the way you listened to their music was you traded cassette tapes that the bands made, between shows. It was a very, very much roll your own scene. And while I can't say it ever made any of those bands famous, they were, there was a devoted following, and it had its influence on people. We had, some members of those bands went on to play in bigger and better groups and things like that. But we have to replicate that across not only music, but films and comics and books and just all other forms of media. And it's tough, but it's necessary, But the upside of the mainstream platform strategy over kind of the roll your own is that there are others that are already doing the creating, and all we have to do is promote it. So even if you're making your own thing, or you people who are, you've got your specific creator that you're trying to push out there, you're trying to promote on other platforms or whatnot. There's others out there that you may not have any connection to, but and they may not even share all of your beliefs or our beliefs, and even or any of them, and that's fine. We can like things that promote our aesthetic and our culture that are created by people who don't necessarily agree with it. In fact, I think that's kind of better in some ways. Just to give you an example of that, it really drives Bruce Springsteen crazy, to no end, that people listen to Born in the USA and think it's a pro-USA song. It gets played all across the country at political rallies and celebrations and, demonstrations and all this stuff. And he just cannot stand that. But it doesn't matter. Once you as an artist produce something and you put it out there for public consumption, it's no longer just yours. They have ownership of it as well, the people who view it, and what they do with it is outside of your control. And that's just the nature of the public. And sometimes they're dumb and can't get the message that you were trying to convey, but it doesn't matter because they consume it or digest it as an individual. We see these things and we interpret everything through our own filters, and you don't have any sway over that generally. In my mind, what it really means is that you failed to convey the message you thought you were putting out there. And maybe that's because you didn't know yourself. You did something you didn't really know what you were trying to do. Or really, it could be a whole lot of reasons. But regardless, people will see and hear what they want to see and hear. And that's just what you have to deal with as a creator. You don't have any control over that stuff. So what I want you all to do is to go out and find examples of works that you believe promote our culture. I want you to share them on every platform that you're on, every mainstream platform, social media platform that you're on. Share these things. You don't have to make any comments or try to make people see what you're getting at, trying to create some kind of conversation that steers people in to see something your way. Don't do that. Just drop the links in your post or post them with no comments at all, Ideally, it promotes conversation with people and it gets people to compare what once was or what is alternative to the mainstream today and realize how lacking and utterly devoid of substance almost every modern media product is, the mainstream media products, And this may take a while. It may take efforts on your part. You got to put in the work to go out and find these things that you think really speaks to our roots and speaks to our culture. Now, I will tell you something, though. There's a lot of good stuff out there. And something it will do for you is that it will bolster your spirits a little bit. At least it did for me. It will fill you with the knowledge that there are people out there that still get it and are still doing it the way that it should be. And telling the stories in the way that our grandfathers and our grandmothers told them. Now, a few weeks back, I told you guys that we can't live in the past. And I want to touch on that again because I don't want people to be sitting there asking themselves, why I said that, but now I'm telling you to go out and find links to the past. Well, really, it's simple. We can't live in the past, but we can't forget it either. It's there and it is part of us and we are intrinsically linked to it through our culture and our blood. And we can't, nor should we even try to escape it. We have to embrace it, however. We must hold it in the proper context and its place in the world. If we lose contact with it or as we have been subjected to, having it torn away from us, then we'll be lost. We will be a people without a memory. Imagine waking up one day and having no idea who you are or where you've been, what you've done prior to that day. That will be us if we do not hold on to our traditions and the things that make us who we are. Not to be ruled by them or to try and relive them, but just not to forget them or denigrate them and diminish them. Above all, just remember, we define our culture and we have it within our control to reject this replacement of that culture. All we have to do is do it. All we have to do is do the work. Now that's all I got time for this week, guys. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.